Winter. In different places it can be different. It can be dry, it can be sunny. Heck, some people have tropical winters.
Here in the UK, it's often wet, soggy and horribly cold and windy.
And it's testing on spirit and on kit. And that kit can get expensive quite quickly, so it can test your wallet. So, can we find some bonkers cheap clothing combos to beat the worst of winter? Let's find out. Yes, riding in a winter in the Northern Hemisphere can be incredible. It can be soul-enriching. It can be a real joy. It can deliver some lightness out of the dark. It can be a highlight of your day, your week, or even your month. Unfortunately, it can also be soul-crushing. It can be really harsh. The mud, the slop, the permanent cold. The sage advice is there's no such thing as bad weather, just a poor choice of clothing. I've heard it attributed to Swedes or Norwegians, but I actually think it's from the fell walking legend Wainwright. Either way, it's from somewhere where there's grim weather. And actually, going out in grim weather in the wrong clothes shouldn't be kind of sniffed at, because hypothermia shouldn't be messed with. We've done a mountain of videos on how to dress properly for, well, horrible conditions. But in brief, we've got to talk about layering. You need to have a base layer underneath, that's next to your skin. That helps wick away the moisture from you, and that should keep you warmer and drier. But helping with that is the insulating layer. That should work with the wicking layer in transporting moisture away from you to keep you dry, but actually keep some of the heat in so you're not cold. Next, we've got the final layer, the outer layer. This can be a windproof. Often they have a little bit of water resistance, or a full-on waterproof, which are often, well, always windproof too. Now, all of these layers can add up in cost, and those prices have really added up. I've seen base layers, okay, nice merino ones, but still for 90 quid. I've seen insulating layers from £170, and I've seen some savage pricing on outer shell jackets. Yeah, I've seen some for 300 quid. Can we cut some corners but still keep ourselves covered for these inclement conditions? We've gone shopping on one of the world's largest vendor-to-consumer portals, AliExpress. First up is an insulating layer. This one is very light. It's branded kind of confusingly as Thermolite and Leica brand, but the Thermolite brand is from the people that make Lycra. But it looks really light. Looks like it should be a good fit. It feels actually really soft. That should be quite fun. The cost was £22.29, with a saving for a new shopper of £3.84. The promise for this is lightweight, breathable. Next up, we've got our outer layer, our jacket. This is actually the second one we ordered, because the first one we ordered, well, we got a cancellation notice, so we had to, well, order a new one. So here it is. Sizing is, well, somewhat unknown because I haven't been able to try it on yet. It does say it's both windproof and waterproof, but it also says it's really breathable and it has anti-sweat pockets. It feels very lightweight. We've got this inner mesh here, which should probably help with wicking. It's hard to see if it's got taped seams. I'm not sure if it does. When you're making a jacket and you're having to, well, stitch bits together, that means you're putting tiny holes in the jacket, in the waterproof outer layer. So what lots of manufacturers do is tape those seams with a special, strong, sticky and waterproof tape. It means that then, even around the stitchings, the jacket should be waterproof. And I guess that's one of those conversations about when is something properly waterproof or just weatherproof. Cost £8.79. It had 60% off already. It promises to be a anti-pilling, anti-shrinking, anti-wrinkle, breathable, quick-dry, waterproof, windproof, UV protection with anti-sweat pockets. Next, we've got trousers. These are pretty special, I think. I think we've got something really incredible. Let me show you. As I've mentioned in other videos, I'm a nerd, so I can't make judgments about style, but they've got a unique take on them, haven't they? Inside, we've got lots of thermal texturing in here, which is good, and they're quite crinkly, quite elastic on the back with lots of sort of thermal fleece. Seems very thin on the very bit where, well, I'd want some waterproofing. Cost £28.26. Promise is windproof. Yep, windproof and thermal. Reflective with a windproof belt. We were meant to get some flat pedals as well, but a bit like the first jacket, they never turned up. and we never heard anything about them again. So all we've got is some fantastic winter sneaker clip shoes. Yeah, I know it's quite a mouthful, and they are a sight to behold. These are apparently waterproof. We've got a boa, which seems to do lots of control. Actually, it's not actually a boa. It's a similar retention device. We've got, well, quite a grippy sole. Nice soft rubber compound. Well, to me, that looks like an extra section that you might have on a motorbike boot, just to help with, well, gear shifts, and hopefully I won't need that. I mean, it looks pretty good. It's very much a high top, so it'd keep my feet nice and warm. I would say as long as this cuff is sealed up. These are going to be interesting. Mountain bike winter racing sneaker. Cost £60, but new shoppers save £68. Before the weather turns from bad to worse, I think it's time to try out these clothes. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty balmy day here. We're in the beautiful Mendips. Weather conditions are pretty chilly. I think the car said about 7. I think it's probably about 5, and it is very windy. Not the best weather, but great weather for testing warmer clothes. We should talk about sizing while I'm semi-nude. It is obviously very hard to try stuff on when you're buying stuff online. These are an extra large. Now, I know I've become a little bit content as a presenter, but these would be a medium in any kind of normal UK or Euro sizing. So yeah, interesting. Right, let's get this thermal layer on. I think potentially the hood up is just an option. It's quite tight. Again, on sizing, we tried our best to get a jacket that would fit. But already you can see there's a slight, well, yeah, 3/4 length arm, quite a long body. The fit is unique. Oh, got quite a high pocket. Now, we should note that this is the same with all boots, is that you'll need to get cleats, fresh cleats. But luckily, I've got those with me. Crank Brothers have got a handy little cleat tool that helps you, well, work out what shims you need underneath, or if you need any or not. But already I can see that the depth of this tread is actually quite shallow. I've got the Shimano shoe here, and, well, yeah, you can kind of see the tread depth is pretty good. But on this one, it's quite a unique setup. It's very low. So will I get the optimal performance? I'm not sure. Okay, the moment of truth. Time to get these shoes on. Quite a roomy fit. There's that gap down inside the shoe. Okay, the boa or boa style device is tightening. It doesn't have the strength to pull. Interesting. Let's try the other. Very fashionable. I've heard they're really the next big thing in Milan. I'm going to help the boa do its job by pulling in some of this. It's not able to actually tighten at all. It means that you can't actually get enough tension on the cabling all the way up. So these boots are just loose. Okay. First, I feel quite cozy. So the insulating layer that I was a bit skeptical of, actually, so far is so good. It is an extra layer, and it is sort of acting as a barrier. Whether it just heats up and I get overly hot, we'll have to find out. Slightly concerning, it's starting to spit with rain. As we mentioned, the weather is definitely changing, but the rain isn't beating up on this, it's just absorbing in. The trousers, definitely windproof. They've got a very solid sort of wind block on them. The boots don't work at all. We'll keep using them just to show that we're going to test stuff, but I can't actually tighten the shoe onto my foot. Right, clobbers on, time to actually test it. Ooh. Right, got the clobber on. Time to actually test it on some lovely muddy trails. Assuming I can clip in. Okay, there we go. because the trousers, yeah, the drawstring doesn't really hold them that well, they keep sliding down and the material effectively is just rubbing and making an awkward squeaking sound. It's quite annoying, but this foot is soaked. It's just sopping wet. Even with me running the trouser over the boot as much as possible, because it just gapes open here, my foot's just sodden. It's kind of ratchet dial thing that should tighten up the boot around my foot, basically just stops being able to tighten up. When they flex, you can see it actually opens the boot up, creating an even bigger gap right where the water's going to splash in. Well, that's in the woods and through the puddles and through lots of mud, but there's a wonderful exposed section up here. It's really windy. I think a real test of clothing for that kind of wind chill and wind exposure. I can say already that the boots are underperforming. I've got very wet feet, so I'm very pleased I've got woolly socks on. The jacket is wetting through, but on the plus side, the trousers aren't too bad, and the insulating layer is actually quite impressive. As you can see, it is really windy up here. Good to test if it is actually windproof. The jacket, yeah, I don't think it is. There's some sections of the trousers which feel quite, well, ventilated, shall we say. And we should talk about why actually getting caught out in the wet and the cold isn't just annoying or kind of a bit of a crap way to finish a ride. It can actually be dangerous. But I think we should probably get off the summit for that. Getting chilly on a ride is, well, just a bit uncomfortable, it's a bit rubbish, isn't it? But getting really cold, bone-chillingly cold, isn't just uncomfortable or annoying, it actually can be dangerous. So, a bit of a public service announcement, which I know some of you will know already, but if you're going outside and the weather is not very nice, you've got high winds, you've got lots of rain, you've got cold temperatures, or the possibility of big changes whilst you're out on the ride, take a camelback. Take more stuff with you than you think in terms of food, in terms of layers, in terms of emergency contacts, maybe an emergency shelter just in case, because the journey from being a bit chilled down to being cold to not really having the function and the brain function to get off the mountain safely can happen really quickly. I know it's a bit dull and I know lots of you do it already, but yeah, take care in the cold and wet wintry weather. Yes, some brands' kit is very, very expensive. Some of it is eye-wateringly so. And I know what you're probably thinking, oh, it's all just marketing spend. I think, to be honest, some of it probably does come from marketing spend. If you're sponsoring lots of top athletes, then, well, sometimes that comes with a bigger budget. But I think what a lot of good brands do when they make really good kit is invest in the materials, so you get the best materials, or they're investing in the factories to make newer materials that are more breathable, maybe offer a different level of waterproofing that others haven't had. But the other thing is the cut and the fit of how they are. Like for me, the arms on this jacket don't really work, and the elastic, well, is sort of constricting and not very nice. The pockets are in the wrong place. I haven't got an extra pocket for my phone, and it's these little details that really go a long way when you're riding. I think the other thing to add is, in the past, I bought a very expensive rain jacket. Yeah, from one of those sort of fancy brands. One of the things that I was really impressed about is that the jacket didn't live up to my expectations. But because the brand had got an ironclad guarantee, I was able to send that jacket back and get a full refund. Now, the pricing I should talk about. Loads of good brands that make really good dedicated mountain bike kit, well, they have special sales at all different times of year. And for me, I think that's a really good way of getting price point stuff that actually works, that's actually supporting the mountain bike industry in terms of supporting riders, and often has better warranty. I think a good case in point would be these boots. They weren't that cheap. They were around £60 when we bought them. And okay, the list price of some of the other big brand boots are around 150, so it is quite a big investment. But they're waterproof, they work really well. You have warm feet, they work with lots of different pedals. And the other thing is that, like lots of other products, again, they have seasonal sales. So just this last week, I saw the very boots that are 150 quid for well under 100. So if it's only a little bit more from these shockingly bad boots to ones that actually work, that actually deliver waterproofing, I think that's worth the investment. At the start of the video, I talked about how winter rides could be, well, soul destroying. And yeah, this ride today has reminded me of that soul destruction that can happen on a wet, soggy, cold ride when your feet are, well, sloshing around in water, your temperature is dropping all the time because the boots are acting like a heat sink, sucking all of the heat out of you. So, can we cheat the big brands? Can we get away and cheat the cold weather and the damp weather with some bargain kit? Well, some of the kit wasn't bad. The trousers, you know what, they were all right. The fit wasn't perfect. Again, these are an XL and they're not very long. The zipper pockets worked fine. Yeah, they didn't stay up for me, but maybe that's my narrow hips. The jacket, I think, is an acceptable jacket as a wind shell. Waterproof on a cold day. I probably would have left it in the car if I'd known how bad the jacket was. Really, really underwhelming. As are the boots. They're shocking in terms of design and how poorly they work. Because it's not just the fact that they gape open and allow loads of water in because they haven't sealed the tongue. It's not only that the foam that they've used inside is absorbing water, so my foot's just sloshing around in cold, chilly, muddy water. The cleat interface doesn't really work. It's really hard to clip in because where they've positioned it is in an odd place and the lugs on the outside don't really work. The other thing is then the sole stiffness. The stiff section is just under the cleat, so the rest of the shoe sort of folds awkwardly around it. And then there's the dial boa setup. Not sure what we call it officially because boa is a brand name, but it doesn't work. And I think that's a real problem with a shoe, especially one that costs quite a lot of money. So what has worked definitely is the insulation layer. I was really impressed. It was cheap as chips. The branding was a little bit, shall we say, confusing because it was referencing a camera brand rather than a clothing brand where the technology of the material was from, but it's performed really well. It's kept me quite warm. So, back to that question, how to make cycle rides in the horrible soggy weather manageable and not soul destroying? Well, yeah, invest in some good winter boots. Shop around and try and find a good deal. Don't go cheap on the jacket. It makes a really big difference to how warm you can be and how much joy you can actually get out of mountain biking. Anyway, that's my thoughts. What are your thoughts on what bargains you found and what hacks have you got for keeping your feet warm unless you're going to invest in the winter boot? Let me know in the comments down below.